All right, this is Block 4 over there, Section 1, Wilson's Foreign Policy, with the lecture entitled The Mexican Revolution. President Wilson, throughout his term, was confronted with significant and serious problems on the American southern border with things that were going on in the nation of Mexico. Mexico was ruled by a dictator by the name of Diaz. And Diaz was overthrown, the Mexicans kind of engaged in a civil war, and Diaz was overthrown in 1913. The revolutionaries installed General Victoriano Huerta in replacement of Diaz. But things did not improve very much under General Huerta. And this was the first time that you see many, many thousands of Mexicans fleeing northward into the United States for economic opportunity. The war continued. And the war got nastier as three people kind of vied for power. Huerta, Carranza, and Pancho Villa all kind of were vying for power, fighting each other. They each had armies, battling each other all over Mexico, which led to American lives, American property, and American business interests in Mexico being threatened. William Randolph Hearst, who was still editing, yellow journalist newspapers in 1913, argued for intervention, which Wilson refused to do. Wilson would not intervene, but he also refused to recognize General Huerta's rule. He said General Huerta does not represent the will of the Mexican people, and the United States is not going to recognize his rule. So what Wilson did sort of do to intervene was he allowed weapons to be shipped from the United States to Carranza and Pancho Villa to fight General Huerta. And things in Mexico were just a bloody awful mess for months and then years at a time. In 1914, an American warship was put in on a normal mission to the city of Veracruz, Mexico. And while some American soldiers were on shore leave, they were kidnapped by one of these groups that were claiming to be the Mexican government. They were threatened with violence. They were eventually released. President Wilson demanded that the Mexicans apologize for this incident, but Mexico's apology did not go far enough in President Wilson's opinion. So in retaliation for that, and because this was such a mess and American lives and property were in danger, Wilson sent in the Marines, and they occupied the port of Veracruz for 6 months. So for 6 months, Veracruz was in American hands in 1914. The reasoning behind it was that the United States needed to be able to move its men and investments out quickly if the need arose, if the violence in Mexico started spreading to the American community in that country. At this point, the United States asked what are known as the ABC powers to intervene, to see if they could kind of arbitrate between the United States and Mexico. The ABC powers are Argentina, Brazil, and Chile. They were kind of the most powerful countries in South America and were kind of tasked with keeping the peace in South America. And these ABC powers tried to create a way out for the United States and Mexico. While they were working, Huerta collapsed. His government, his regime collapsed. He did not personally collapse. His government collapsed, his regime collapsed, and he was replaced by Carranza. Wilson's not a huge fan of this Carranza character either. But in the choice of Huerta, Carranza, or Pancho Villa, Wilson decides that the United States must support Carranza. With recognition of Carranza, Wilson pulls American troops out of Veracruz, and everything looks like it's going to sort of settle down. But the fact that the United States now had picked kind of a winner, if you will, or picked someone to support in this Mexican Civil War, that really angered the Mexican leader, Pancho Villa. And that is going to be the topic of our next little section.